Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're tackling something that I'm sure is on a lot of your minds these days: social media and kids.
It's definitely a hot topic, especially with all the talk about Australia's proposed ban for under 16.
Oh yeah, for sure. With all that going on, we thought it was a perfect time to really dive into this whole issue and try to unpack it a bit.
It's a complicated one for sure.
It is. So to help us all make sense of it all, we're taking a look at this really interesting article from Let's Learn Kilby.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. It's a good one. It really digs into the pros and cons of social media for younger generations and even brings in some insights from the book Nurturing Young Minds.
Right, and it's got some Australian data too, which feels super relevant right now.
Definitely. And what I really appreciate is that it starts by acknowledging the positive side of social media.
Okay, so let's talk about those positives then. I remember when I was a kid, I felt like my world was so small, you know. But with social media, kids today have access to this whole universe of information and connections. It can be a real game changer, especially for those who might feel unheard or isolated in their offline lives.
Absolutely. The article really highlights how social media can be a powerful tool for self-expression.
For sure.
It allows kids to connect with others who share their interests and passions. And it's not just about finding your tribe, it's about finding your voice.
Yeah.
These platforms can give kids a platform to share their creativity, advocate for causes they care about, and even spark real-world change.
You know, that reminds me of how the article talked about the role of social media during the 2015 Chennai floods. People were using hashtags to coordinate rescue efforts and raise awareness on a global scale.
That's a great example of how young people are using these platforms for good. And it's not just about crisis situations either. We're seeing kids showcasing their talents on platforms like TikTok and Instagram,
Oh, yeah,
building communities on Discord servers and Reddit, and even finding their niche through hobby-specific apps like Goodreads.
It's amazing to see how these digital spaces are fostering creativity and collaboration.
It really is.
I mean, think about it. Kids today can connect with others who share their passion for anime, learn to code together online, or even start a virtual book club. The possibilities are endless.
It's definitely reshaping how we connect and learn. Remember Orkut?
Oh, yeah.
Those early online communities were just a taste of what was to come. Now we have Facebook groups, Instagram pages, Telegram, and so much more.
It's true.
It's this vast network of interconnected spaces, each with its own unique culture and purpose.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty rosy picture so far. But of course, there's another side to this coin. And let's be real, the concerns parents have about social media are totally valid.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see all these opportunities. We can't ignore the potential downsides. And the article doesn't shy away from those. One of the most interesting concepts it introduces is the evolution factor, which basically suggests that our brains haven't quite caught up to the rapid-fire pace of the digital world.
Okay, I'm all ears. Explain that one to me.
Sure. Think about it this way. For most of human history, we evolved in environments where social interactions were face-to-face, and feedback was relatively slow and limited.
Makes sense.
But social media throws us into this constant whirlwind of likes, comments, and comparisons. Our brains, especially the developing brains of children, are still trying to adapt to this onslaught of information and stimulation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the article talks about how this is particularly challenging for kids because their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for things like impulse control and decision-making, is still under construction.
Exactly. It's like asking someone to build a house while the foundation is still settling. It's no wonder kids can be so easily influenced by what they see online. Your brains are literally wired to be more sensitive to social rewards and feedback.
So it's not just about kids being addicted to their phones. It's about understanding the neurological underpinnings of their behavior in this digital age. And that brings us to one of the biggest concerns for parent cyberbullying.
It's such a complex issue, and unfortunately, social media provides a breeding ground for it. The anonymity and ease of communication can make it incredibly easy for kids to be cruel to one another without facing real-world consequences.
And let's not forget how difficult it can be to track down these bullies online. It's like trying to catch a ghost. The article mentions a few heartbreaking stories about the devastating impact cyberbullying can have on kids, and it just makes you realize how important it is to be vigilant and proactive in addressing this.
Absolutely. We need to be having open conversations with our kids about what's happening online, teaching them how to recognize and report bullying, and creating a safe space for them to come to us if they're struggling. And on that note, the article touches on a few other sensitive topics that might make some parents squirm, like sexting.
Okay, that's one I've been dreading having to talk to my kids about. It feels like a whole new world of potential dangers.
It can be daunting, but honestly, pretending it doesn't exist isn't going to help. The article highlights how prevalent sexting has become, and the risks are very real. Sharing intimate photos or messages can have serious consequences, especially if they fall into the wrong hands. And with the way things can spread online, what might seem like a private exchange can quickly become public knowledge.
It's scary to think about, but it just reinforces the need for open communication and education. We can't shield our kids from everything, but we can equip them with the knowledge and tools they need to make responsible choices.
Exactly. And speaking of things that might make some parents uncomfortable, the article doesn't shy away from the topic of pornography either.
Okay, so I remember trying to sneak a peek at magazines when I was a teenager, and it was a whole ordeal. Now it's just a click away. It seems like we're facing a whole new level of accessibility.
The digital age has definitely changed the landscape, and it's something we need to be mindful of. The article raises some important points about the potential impact of pornography on young minds. Not only is it easily accessible, but it can also create unrealistic expectations around sex and relationships, and in some cases even lead to addiction.
It's definitely a conversation we need to be having with our kids, even if it feels awkward.
Yeah.
I think the key is to approach it with honesty and provide them with accurate information to counteract the misinformation they might encounter online.
Absolutely. And then there's the truly chilling aspect of social media. Cyber predators.
Now, that's every parent's worst nightmare.
It really is. And the article points out that it's a much more prevalent threat than many parents realize. These predators often use fake profiles to lure and manipulate young people, taking advantage of their innocence and vulnerability.
It's terrifying to think about. We teach our kids to be wary of strangers in the real world, but we also need to equip them with the tools to identify and avoid these digital predators.
And that's where digital literacy comes in. It's about giving kids the skills to critically evaluate information online, recognize red flags, and protect themselves from harm. The article suggests we shift our focus from banning social media altogether to empowering our kids with these essential skills.
So instead of saying no to social media completely, we're saying, here's how to navigate it safely and responsibly. I like that approach much better. It's about teaching them how to swim, not keeping them out of the water entirely.
Exactly. It's about equipping them with the tools and knowledge they need to be savvy digital citizens, capable of navigating the complexities of the online world with confidence and awareness.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and I have to say I'm feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation.
Well, that's understandable. Social media is this powerful tool with incredible potential for both good and bad. It's like fire. It can warm our homes or burn them down depending on how we use it.
That's such a great analogy, and it really highlights the importance of our role as parents in guiding our kids through this digital landscape.
It's not about fear. It's about empowerment. It's about giving them the knowledge and skills they need to make responsible choices and navigate this world safely. And it's about having open and honest conversations even when the topics are tough.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the upsides, the downsides, and the importance of digital literacy. But what about this idea of banning social media altogether? Is that really a viable solution?
That's where things get really interesting, and that's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, folks, grab a refill, stretch your legs, and we'll be back in a flash to tackle that very question. Stay tuned.
So are you feeling more cautious about social media now? Or are you thinking it's manageable if you're careful?
It's tough.
I
I see the good stuff, but those risks are definitely scary. Which brings us back to that question we left off with. Is banning social media even the answer? I mean, this article from Let's Learn Kelby makes it seem like it's not that simple.
Yeah, they make a really good point about how banning something can just make it more hidden, especially for kids who are good with tech.
Like, it'll just push them to shadier corners of the internet.
Exactly. They even talk about how kids could just use VPNs to get around those restrictions.
Oh, for sure. So a country-specific ban is basically impossible.
Pretty much. It's like trying to stop the tide. And it makes you think, are we actually protecting kids or just delaying the inevitable? This article really gets you thinking. Is it about control or guidance? Teaching them to be responsible or just keeping them away from something we don't fully get?
That's a good way to put it. So what are those other solutions the article mentioned?
They talk a lot about focusing on education and digital literacy. That seems way more effective in the long run.
Yeah, so instead of just saying no, we're saying here's how to use it safely, think critically, make good choices, like giving them the tools to navigate the digital world instead of locking them out.
Exactly. It's about teaching them those critical thinking skills so they can evaluate information, spot online scams, and even see the signs of a predator.
Like internet street smarts.
Exactly.
But that's a lot of work for us as parents too, right?
Right. Oh, definitely. They talk about parental supervision tools, which can help, but open communication is key. It's about talking to them, not just watching them from afar.
But some parents might feel like monitoring their kids is an invasion of privacy. What would you say to them?
That's a valid concern. I think it's about framing it as a partnership, not spying. You're not trying to snoop, but to understand their world and offer support. And honestly, the sooner you start talking about it, the easier it gets.
And there are age-appropriate platforms too, like YouTube Kids. It lets younger children explore, but still has some boundaries in place.
It's about that balance between protecting and letting them explore, letting them enjoy the good parts of social media while minimizing the risks.
It's a tough balance to strike, for sure. But the article also says that those big platforms like Facebook and Instagram need to have stricter rules too. It can't just be on the parents' right.
Absolutely. If we think bigger, it's about those companies being responsible for making the internet safer for everyone, especially for kids.
Right, so better age verification, more responsible content moderation.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Exactly. It's about creating a space where kids can connect, create, and explore without constantly worrying about being exploited or hurt. We need to push for that, both as individuals and as a society.
So it's multifaceted. Education, communication, age-appropriate content, and holding those platforms accountable. Working together to build a digital world that's exciting and safe for our kids.
You got it. And it's an ongoing conversation, too, because technology keeps changing. We need to stay flexible. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a constant process of learning and adapting.
Yeah. What stood out to me most is the power of knowledge and being open with each other. We can't just pretend social media isn't there. We have to face it, right?
Absolutely. The more we know, the better we can guide our kids. It's not about hiding. It's about helping them become thoughtful and resilient online.
Helping them find their voice both online and offline. Not just protecting them, but helping them unlock all the amazing potential social media can have.
Couldn't have said it better myself. As we go into the final part of our deep dive, let's remember that key message. It's not about fear. It's about empowering them. Guidance over control. And working together to create a digital future that's safe and inspiring for our children.
Love it. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around for the last part of our deep dive, where we'll wrap things up with some final thoughts and a call to action. Don't go anywhere.
All right, we are back for the final part of our deep dive into social media and kids. I got to say, I'm feeling a lot more knowledgeable, but also realizing there's always more to learn.
It's true. There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
It's about staying engaged, informed, and just being able to adapt.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about the evolution factor, how our brains are still catching up with the digital world.
Yep.
I think that's a good reminder to be patient with our kids and ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all figuring this out together in real time. And as adults, we can't expect our kids to be perfect with this stuff when we're still struggling with it too. It's so true. Instead of judging, we need to guide. Instead of shame, we need to support. And honestly, just keeping those lines of communication open is huge.
Couldn't agree more. It all comes back to education and digital literacy, giving our kids the tools to think for themselves and really evaluate information. That's what will help them make responsible choices online.
It's like we're not just throwing them in the deep end and hoping for the best, right? We're giving them swimming lessons, showing them how to stay afloat.
Exactly. Empowering them, not avoiding it. Remember, this isn't a one-time thing. The digital world is always changing, so how we guide our kids needs to change too.
So it's not one talk, it's an ongoing conversation, not just about rules, but about building a healthy relationship with technology.
Finding that balance between exploring and protecting, being creative but staying safe. Social media is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways.
Yeah, the power is in how we use it. And that's where parents, educators, tech companies, we all have a role to play.
It makes you wonder, what kind of digital future do we want for our kids? What values are important? And how can we work together to build a digital world that's both safe and empowering?
Those are great questions to think about. This whole conversation has been really eye-opening for me. And hopefully it's got you all thinking too.
We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully this gives you a place to start. You're not alone in this. We're all navigating this new world together.
And remember, you're doing great. Just by being here learning about this stuff, you're already taking a huge step in the right direction.
So to sum it all up, keep asking questions, stay engaged, and most importantly, talk to your kids. You got this.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into social media and kids. We hope you found it insightful and helpful. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected.